All right. Hey, Diego, how's it going?
All good. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming and I appreciate your time. And it's going to be fun. I'm sure my audience would love to know about product management and how to get into one of the good companies and how to basically break out into tech. But before we get started, I would really like to know something about you which most people don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a fun question. One of the things that a lot of people think is that when you get into product management, that typically means that you had a long history of working in technology or being a software engineer or even creating your own side tech projects and things like that. But in reality, my story about my first job didn't start in anything related to technology. That's something that a lot of people don't know. One of my
Okay.
first jobs, if not my first official job, was actually so let me take a step back here. I am from Mexico. I lived most of my life in Mexico, right? So the
Mhm.
culture is different. The kind of work is different. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about my first job was that I worked for a company that brought to Mexico and many parts of Latin America trading
Oh.
card games like Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and all these kind of card games. So it was super fun, and I spent at least 2 years over there. But the interesting
Mm.
thing there is, and just to connect the dots, is that even though it happened a long, long time ago, you might think, well, but how is that even relevant to what I'm doing today, right? But that's where
Mhm.
I started my journey into knowing that I really enjoyed being around people, working with different functions and bringing them together to create a solution. We created tournaments, we created events for different players in Mexico and Latin America. So it was really
Mm.
always brainstorming in a group, and so I feel that that's a little bit of an unknown fact about me. And it's also why, in all of my backgrounds, you see things like board games and all the kind of fun stuff because I really love doing it.
Oh, nice. That's very interesting. Good to know. Where are you from in Mexico? I would love to know that.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Mexico City. I was born and raised in Mexico City and spent
Okay.
most of my life there.
Oh, nice. Okay. I have one of my best friends. He lives in Toluca. So I know, I don't know how far is that from
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's pretty close. It's about 30-45 minutes. The thing is that Mexico City is one of the biggest cities in the world.
oh yeah.
And so depending on where you are, it could be half an hour to Toluca, or it could be like 2 or 3 hours, but it's still Mexico City. So
Okay.
it's close. In
It's
relationship,
close
it's
enough.
close.
Okay. All right. So I need to fly to Mexico City to get to him then. That's good. Good to
Yeah,
know that.
absolutely.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, so we'll jump into our discussion here. So tell us about your background, what you do right now, and how do you like it? Do you enjoy what you do right now?
Yeah, so as I was saying before, I'm not a computer science major,
Hmm.
but I do have an engineering background. I have an electronic
Okay.
engineering background, and I
Mm.
make a lot of emphasis on that because I really didn't have any coding classes, except for one maybe, but I actually never coded. So my
Okay.
background is in engineering. I never
Hmm.
worked as an engineer though. My next step was working as a business intelligence consultant, and fast forward to what I'm doing today. Today, I'm a senior product manager at Microsoft working on AI and machine learning. So it's been quite a journey
Mm.
because I don't have, if you look at it from the macro lens perspective, I don't have the background in machine learning. I'm not a computer science major. I didn't work as an engineer, but now I'm a product manager working in AI and machine learning. So it's been pretty cool. It's something that I really am passionate about and I really enjoy it.
Awesome, excellent. So this is very interesting. So I have a couple of questions on this topic
Mhm.
here. We'll spend some time because for me, I come from civil engineering background also, just like you mentioned. But recently, I completed my master's in project management, and that kind of opened this new world of technology for me because they use a lot of project management, especially agile, Scrum. That's what they are kind of focused on, and for me, listening to or hearing words like AI, machine learning, are very intimidating because I have no idea, though they sound really nice, but because there's a lot of coding involved, a lot of tech involved. For people like us who maybe want to get into tech, it's intimidating. So, we're scared of it. I was like, oh, do I need to learn coding? Do I need to know how things operate? Do I need to know these things before I can get a job in product management or product as a product owner or a project manager? So these are really, I would say, kind of questions. And maybe you can clarify like how much of maybe coding you do on a day-to-day basis. Do you have to really know coding to do your job right now?
Yeah, in the last 2 years as a product manager at Microsoft,
Hmm.
actually, in the last 4 years as a product manager in general, I've done a total of zero coding. I've never
Okay.
coded. I don't need to know how to code. But let me break that concept. Don't necessarily, as a product manager, as somebody who's not going to code, yes, I don't need to know exactly how a button or how a screen or how a form is coded, but I do need to understand what are the things that are feasible. If I'm going to create with my team, with a team of engineers, a mobile app, I need to understand what are the things that the team can accomplish. Because if I suddenly come up with this crazy idea, like, hey, I want my mobile app to make coffee for me in the morning, then it starts to be unreasonable, right? But if I
Yeah.
do know the limits and I know the possibilities, then I can help my team. I can guide them on the trade-offs, because sometimes they're going to come to you, the engineering team, as a product manager. They're going to come to you and they're not going to say, hey, I have this line of code versus this line of code, which one should I use? But they're actually going to come to you and say, hey, if we make the code go this way versus that way, there are different implications. So what do we do? So as a product manager, I need to understand the boundaries and the things that are possible for me to make those decisions. That's the kind of technology comfort that you have to be available to just learn about. You don't need to know the code. Now, that's one thing on understanding technology, being a product manager, and the question about, do I need to know how to code? Let me talk about machine learning for a moment, which you're right, it's something that can
Yeah.
sound really scary. Coding a machine learning model, it will take 2 lines of code. That's it. If I show you the algorithm, you'll be like, well, hold on, is that really it? And the answer is yes. But the thing about machine learning is that you have to understand the whole process that data scientists go through, from gathering the data all the way to tuning, fine tuning, also called hyperparameter tuning, the models to produce the result that you're expecting. And understanding the whole process is what really makes it a little bit difficult to kind of lose that fear of machine learning. So if there are plenty of courses, there are many of things that you can do, but once again, I don't code any of the algorithms, but I need to understand all the process step by step. Why are the data scientists making A decision versus B decision? Those are the kind of things that I need to understand. So no, you don't need to know how to code, and yes, you have to be comfortable with technology and making trade-offs and decisions.
Okay, understood. Now, that's very interesting. I have a lot of questions here, but we're going to go a little bit in the back and then come back here. So let's go back a little bit and talk about your journey coming to USA. So when was this? What were you doing in Mexico before? So you did your electrical engineering in Mexico, seems like. So when was this and when did you come to US?
After I graduated, one of the first jobs that I got after college was a business intelligence consulting firm. So it makes a little bit of data, a little bit of the consulting side, so talking with customers, creating projects, bringing them back to my team, and coming up with these solutions. I spent five-ish years doing that, and it was very exciting. But there was one big problem, and one thing that I just didn't like about consulting, which was after you create this fantastic project, you come up with this magical solution for the customer, you give it to them, and then you say goodbye, and then you start all over again, and you come up with another solution, give it to the next customer, and then you start over and over and over again. And I really wanted to see the what happens next, what comes after we give the solution. And it's not just the implementation, but it's how is the business going after they implement this? Does it really help the business? But then I also realized that coming from an engineering background and then working in data and consulting, I didn't know much or anything about business other than what the customers would tell me for many different industries. So I knew that I wanted to study something related to business. I wasn't exactly sure. So I did my research and I ended up learning about MBAs. And that was how I actually came to the US. I applied for my MBA, did my GMAT, applied to different schools. And in 2015, I was admitted by Duke University. And that's where that's where I did my MBA to come to the US.
Good. Oh wow, that's a top university. That's one of the top universities, I would say, even in top 20, I would say. Right. Really good school. So okay, so this was 2015. So you came to US in 2015, and so you came on F1 visa like others.
That is correct.
Okay, excellent. So you came on F1 visa. So you start. How long was your program at Duke?
So this MBA program was 2 years.
Okay. And how was your experience at Duke? Maybe your MBA. And what was your MBA in? What did you study at? Like, what was your
Yeah.
major there? Part of
Yeah,
MBA.
it was fantastic. If I could, I would do it all over again.
Okay.
So definitely was a great experience. Learn a ton about the things that I wanted to learn, which were
Mm-hmm.
business. I think one of the flexibilities of an MBA is that you get an opportunity to kind of tailor your experience to whatever you like. What I mean by that
Mm,
is, for example, I had friends who used the MBA as a way to get into investment banking. So they would
mm,
go into courses that had to do with more financial investment, stocks, that kind of things. I got friends
got it.
who were very into marketing, and so they focus
Mm,
all their classes into that. So it's not really like yes, some MBAs will tell you, oh, you get a specializations in marketing and product and whatever, but it really is not about that. That subtitle of the MBA really doesn't matter for
mm,
anyone. What matters is you have all these option of classes. Where do you want to focus? What are the kind of things that you're going to learn?
okay.
And there's a big myth, just to clarify that, there's a big myth about, well, everything you can learn in an MBA, you can learn it for free. Yeah, absolutely. Even anything that you can learn from in a
Yeah.
college, you can learn from free, right?
True.
The advantage of an MBA, in my opinion, is one, the experience. That's something incredible. Like I said, I would do it again if I could.
Got
Second
it.
is the network. Because in the end, you're going to meet with a bunch of other amazing people that are going to end up
Yes.
in different places that sometimes you never even imagine, right? So the
True.
network, the people that you connect with, it's incredible. That extends to alumni from the same school. And that's something that free online learning doesn't actually give you. And third, yeah, absolutely the knowledge. And to me, I wanted to, after 5 6 years of working experience, I wanted kind of a break, take a step back, being back as a student, and then continue my
Mm,
journey, professional wise.
got it. Very excellent. Okay, excellent. So where is Duke located, by the way?
Duke is in North Carolina, in a
Okay.
county named Durham.
All
It's
right.
a very small place, but it's a beautiful place. It's full of green places, and I don't know, it's just
Mm,
beautiful for 2 years.
okay, nice. I know about Durham. Yeah. Okay, excellent. Okay. Oh wow. All right. So you studied at Duke. During this time, did you do any internships? Like, how did you get your internship, and or did you do any?
Yeah, in these master's programs like the
Mm,
MBA, typically there are two types of recruitment. You've got the on-campus recruitment and the
mm,
off-campus recruitment. On-campus means that companies come to the school, they present, and they post a job in our board that we have in the school. Then the
okay.
offline campus is you still get access to the school resources, but it's kind of
Mm,
you on your own, kind of trying to find a job. So everyone in the program does both. But I did get an internship. I interned at
okay.
Cisco as a product manager through the on campus, meaning that they came to the school, they did a presentation, they posted some jobs on our board,
Okay.
and I applied to those, and then eventually interviews, and then got the internship.
Got it. So was this in your area, or did you travel somewhere else to do your internship?
Yeah, so this was in California, in
Okay.
Silicon Valley, and
Nice.
respecting to the visa, that's where you start to get your first CPT, which is the
Yeah.
summer visa for about 3 months, right before coming back as an F1.
Yes. 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 Okay. Excellent. Yes, that's I wanted to get into that juicy content because most of my people watch for the immigration purposes. Okay. So you got your CPT. You worked for 3 months in Silicon Valley. So how was the experience there? How was the experience from going from a small city to the Silicon Valley? Because it's totally different. It's a little bit intimidating as well. Like you don't know what you're doing. The cost of living is a little bit higher too. If you can maybe share how much they paid you for your internship, we would also love to know that. Uh, how was the packages and how did you do there?
Yeah, I honestly don't remember how much, but I can tell you it was enough. It was enough
Okay.
because I was sharing and I'll start there, but then I'll answer all your question. I shared a house with two others from my school who were also going to Silicon Valley to work for the summer. So in the end, it
Okay.
was definitely not that big of but yes, the cost of living is high, but it was definitely not something impossible because I was sharing. But even then, I think as an international, you have to think
Okay.
of three things whenever you study something like an MBA or any other master's degree coming to the
Mm,
US. The intention is to change three things: location, industry, and function, right? And
mm.
the more of those three that you change, the harder it will be to get into that new job. So, for
Got
example,
it.
if I come from marketing and I want to stay in marketing, I'm only changing maybe two, location and industry. Maybe I want to stay in my same industry, so I'm just changing location. So the lower
Mm,
you put the risk, the easier it'll be to go into that. So for me,
got
it
it.
was about I want to change the three of them. I want to go from
Mm,
consulting into a different country and in a different industry, technology, and in a different function, which was product
yeah.
management. So in the end, to me, the payment for the internship was the least important thing. That doesn't mean that I
Got
didn't
it.
need to be paid, but it was I didn't focus on that. I focused more
Got
on,
it.
is this job going to get me into my full-time opportunity? If the answer
Mm,
is yes, then it's worth it. And I'll figure it out how I'll pay for it. But I
got
want to
it.
have experience, right? Um,
So,
and then to your other question, Durham is a beautiful place, but it's very small. I come from Mexico City, which is one of the biggest places in the world.
yeah.
So going to
Yep.
California, Silicon Valley was nothing strange. In fact, it felt
Mm,
closer to home because I was back in a big city. So it was definitely a fantastic place to be.
got it. So now during this time, were you in San Jose, Palo Alto area, or were you in San Francisco area? Where were
I
you
was
located?
yeah, I was in San Jose. I was actually living in San Jose.
Okay, nice. Okay, all right. Yeah, most people don't know that, so I just wanted to. All right, excellent. I love that. Okay, so now going back, so after you graduated, where did you started working, and how was that? How did that help you to get into Microsoft?
When you come back from the internship, typically there's a
Yeah.
waiting period for most companies. They'll tell you whether or not you have an offer a few weeks or months later after you
Okay.
come back to school in your second year, and that was
Mm-hmm.
my case. There's also a
Okay.
recruitment period as well. So meaning you come back to school around
Mm-hmm.
August or September, and then you have typically until December to either accept an offer from the company that you had an internship with,
Okay.
or you can recruit again to try to get another offer that you may be more interested in instead
Mm.
of the summer experience, right? So that was my case. I got my offer for Cisco about 2 or 3 months after I came back, so
Okay.
around October, November. So in the meantime, I was
Mm-hmm.
recruiting with different other companies, but I really enjoyed working with Cisco, and I really
Okay.
enjoyed working as a product manager. So I ended up taking my offer to come back to that. And how did it prepare me to be where I am today at Microsoft? I think when you are in product management, let's put for a moment
Mm-hmm.
aside the technology piece, because I was working in wireless and now I'm in AI machine learning. But everything else regarding soft
Mm-hmm.
skills, transferable skills, launching products, ideation, all those kind of things are very transferable. So I didn't have any problem convincing Microsoft that,
Okay.
hey, I've got all these skills. I need to learn about AI, but I have all these other skills. And I have already 2 years to prove that. So that's how it helped me transition into Microsoft.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. So, how long were you at Cisco, and what made you change your field? Like, what a company?
Mhm.
Like, what made you go into Microsoft? What was the motivation?
For me, it was 2 years before I decided that I wanted to go into another company. That's how long
Okay.
I spent at Cisco,
Mm-hmm.
and then different changes of the visa that we can also talk about. But
Yeah.
my motivation to change from Cisco to starting by anywhere, and then I'll close it into why Microsoft, was that I I really enjoyed my time as a product manager there. I was
Mm-hmm.
working on something non very traditional to Cisco. So typically when you think of Cisco, a company like Cisco, you think of routers, switches, and access points. And I was not working in anything like that. I was actually working in creating an application that would track devices over the network. As an example, think of a hospital tracking a wheelchair. And if the wheelchair is out of the hospital for X amount of time, that will trigger an alert so that somebody goes and pick up that wheelchair, and that expands to any device in the hospital, manufacturing side, school, work, whatever. I was working on that. And then I realized that if I wanted to continue going up in the terms of the hierarchy and my professional career, if I wanted to do that at Cisco, I needed to switch into the core business of it, the routers, the switches, the access points. But that was something that I was not really passionate about. And at that moment, I decided, let me try to find something new. I'm still early in my career as a product manager, and I want to try new things. So after interviewing with other companies like Amazon and Google and Microsoft, I actually really liked what the Microsoft team was doing. And it was a little bit of AI and machine learning, which was new for me. And I said, why not try it? I really liked the culture. I liked the team working aspect of it. I liked that there was a lot of emphasis on let's experiment and let's grow. Plus AI machine learning, I was sold on that. And that's why I decided to go from Cisco to Microsoft.
Excellent. Oh, wow. Okay. We'll come back a little bit. I want to talk about your visa situations and what you had to go through as well. So MBA. Now, was this a STEM MBA or was it a regular MBA? You only got 1 year of extension to work. How was that?
Many schools at the time that I was studying didn't start with the STEM MBA. Most of them, even though I did have all the courses required for what would be today a STEM MBA. At that time, there was still a lot of confusion on which schools would go in the STEM path versus not. And I didn't get the STEM option. Now, my same program at Duke is actually a STEM MBA. But at the time, it was not.
It was not. Okay. So you were playing a really tight shift, I would say. You were really hoping that you get picked up in your H-1B. So when you got to Cisco, did you apply for your H-1B? They applied for H-1B visa then?
Right. And so just to clarify, the STEM MBA gives you the 3 years, right? In OPT. So you get actually 4 opportunities for H1 versus non-STEM, which gives you 2. And so I didn't have the STEM, so I only had 2 opportunities. One was the year that I graduated. So Cisco got me into the H-1B lottery, and that is around April. You get your paperwork sent around between April and October. You'll find out whether or not you got the H-1B. I didn't get it my first year. I got it in my second year.
Got it. So quick question here. You had not started working at Cisco when they applied for H-1B first time, right?
That is correct.
Yes, that is very fortunate. Okay, I'll tell you, for normal people like us, it rarely happens. Like, they usually apply for your H-1B once you get inside the company. Like, rarely they will apply for you for H-1B before even, like, let's say, for example, if you're graduating in May, rarely it will happen that they will apply for H-1B in April before you even get started. So I think you were maybe fortunate in that way that Cisco kind of went ahead and above the call of duty and applied for you twice, because most people will only get that one chance. And with non-STEM degrees, it's really difficult to get picked up. So,
yeah. Well, if I can add there, I think, at least from my experience, and I can't talk for any other master's degree, but at least most of the MBAs that I do know, for most of us international students, companies, especially in the tech industry, I can't speak for other industries, but at least in the tech industry, you get, if you don't have a STEM, or even if you have a STEM MBA, they actually apply while you are studying. So I don't know if it's an MBA thing kind of thing. I don't know if it's a tech industry kind of thing. I have no idea. But for most of the MBAs that I know, we actually get the application in before we actually start working for them. Maybe not every company, but at least for the ones that I know of, they do.
That is amazing. That is such a great news, because now a lot of people I talk to, because they have this concern. You have you've told me something new today. I've never heard of this, to be honest. This was like, it's groundbreaking information, because a lot of people come to US to do their like MBA. They really want to pursue MBA, but sometimes they are not able to do that because the particular MBA they want to do doesn't come in STEM, and they have to go into engineering management or project management because of that, and kind of like go away from their goal. But because of this, you at least get two chances. And I know some companies will even apply for that on your CPT. So if you're really be able to communicate that to your company, you might even be able to apply for 3 times. But it's about just how the industry you choose and how you communicate. I think that's very critical.
Right.
But this is good to know. So, so you did your H1B at Cisco. Now, so during this time you were in San Jose area, right?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay, got it. So what happened after that? So when you got into Microsoft, did you move to Seattle or are you still in San Jose area?
No, when I moved to Microsoft, I moved to Washington State. So now I'm in the Seattle area. Yeah, that was 2 years ago.
Okay, got it. And how do you like that? Like, what made you make that change? Do you like that change? What about the weather? Because we have heard a lot of good things about it and not so good things.
Yeah, I honestly think, once again, taking into account the fact that I come from Mexico, where the weather is really nice, but it also rains, and the Seattle weather is not. I think people exaggerate when they say that the Seattle weather is really bad. Honestly, to me, it's been one of the most beautiful summers in the entire US. And it's been a great journey so far. Like, I really love it here. I think, to me, the West Coast is my favorite part of the US. I really liked it. And so being in California, being in Seattle, these are two different, very different, but great places. Each has its own unique set of things that you can do. If you ask me, I don't mind Seattle. It's a beautiful place to be in.
Okay, excellent. Well, I am actually going to be in Seattle the last week of September. My best friend lives there, and I was planning to visit him for a few days and just get a feeling for the city. You know, I've been looking at maybe 10 to 15 cities in US where I want to eventually settle down, and that's a part of that was like checking out Seattle as well. So
nice, that's awesome.
Hopefully, yeah, and maybe I can meet you too. You know, I would love to grab
absolutely.
a cup of coffee. Yeah. So all right, so moving into Microsoft. I also wanted to know, would you be like comfortable talking about the compensation, what people make at these different phases? Because a lot of students also want to know which field they can go to, which companies they can go into, and what kind of compensation they can expect. So maybe you can help us compare the compensation between Cisco and Microsoft and what that includes. Did you get a starting bonus? What was like maybe you don't have to share the exact numbers, but an average salary you can expect as an entry level at Cisco and then moving into Microsoft, and also maybe like what equity you got during this time.
Yeah, what I can share is that so two things. One is there's a fantastic website called levels.fyi. And that in that website, you can actually compare different ranges of, in my case, product management at different stages of the company. One of the biggest reasons I share that is because some companies, not necessarily Cisco or Microsoft, but some companies have something called associate product manager versus others just product manager versus others rotational product manager. And so I call it out that way because if somebody's looking at a company and be like, wait, but Diego didn't mention associate product manager. What's happening here is I think that website is fantastic. But then the second piece that I want to mention about that is that when as an international, especially in Mexico, taxes are the same across the entire country. So I never had to worry about taxes, but that's not the case in the US. So if you see, I'm going to make up numbers and again, go and fact check them on this website. But say you were earning $150,000 in California, yearly salary. And then you want to move to Seattle and you got an offer for 125. You'll be like, wait, hold on a moment. I'm like, why am I getting paid less? But California has higher taxes than Seattle. So in the end, it might be that those 125 are actually end up being more than 150. So when you think about companies and when you think about this compensation, also take into account the place they are located, because you might see huge numbers but because the
Got it.
tax is really high, the number is actually not that high.
Not that
So
high.
definitely take those numbers with a grain of salt, thinking that the taxes will be different. That's one thing.
Okay.
Then the other thing that I want to share is that when you hear the word total compensation, you might hear that total compensation is like $300,000 for any company. Choose Amazon, Microsoft, Google, whatever.
Yeah.
The point is that don't think that those $300,000 are going to be your salary. The
Yeah.
total compensation includes exactly what you mentioned, which is you get the equity, you get stocks, you get a signing bonus, which for sure for Cisco and for Microsoft, I got a signing bonus. Then you got your salary. And then sometimes companies include a few other things in that total compensation. So in my view, I think it's worth it to really look at what are the things that the total compensation is going to get you, and what stage you are in. Because again, a number might look really great versus another one in different states, and it could be that they are actually the same, or the one that looks lower is actually better because of taxes. So that's what I can say about salary. Because honestly, just to finish that thought, honestly, in the end, what you can expect from any product management role after a master's degree, an MBA, because then associate PM could be slightly different. In the Seattle, Washington area, I think salaries at Amazon and Google and Microsoft and any of these companies would start around $115,000 yearly salary, more or less. And then in the Bay Area, they're going to start a little bit higher, like 125, 35. But because of the taxes, they will end up being very similar, if not the same.
Got it. Now, does that include the equity also, or
no? That is just the yearly salary. Equity is a tricky thing to talk about, and we could spend hours talking about it. I'm no financial advisor, but here's what I can share. Amazon is going to give you, I'm going to make up a number and go and look it up in some website. But say if they were going to give you $100,000 of equity, you will be like, wow, that's $100,000 on Amazon stock. But in reality, what they don't tell you, or what you typically don't hear, is yes, but it's vested in 5 years, which means you don't get the $100,000 up front. You're going to get them little by little until you stay 5 years at Amazon. Maybe a different company would give you $30,000 in stock. And you'll be thinking, well, it's actually not that much, but you vest them, or meaning you get them in 1 year. So then you have to make the trade-off of what's more important to you, right? Most of the companies out there in the tech area after an MBA in product management are going to give you stocks.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. Good to know. Good to know. Because that's where, the difference comes working with non-tech companies and tech companies. For example, the companies I work with, or I've always worked with, we only get salaries. There are no starting bonuses. There is no yearly bonus. Very few companies will actually even give you yearly bonuses. And that is the difference. And equity, it's never heard of. So actually, I only heard that you get equity about 6 months ago, and somebody contacted me through YouTube, and they told me that, hey, I have a 250K comp at Amazon, and I get almost $100,000 in equity every year. So that was really refreshing to know. And because imagine this, like somebody working in a non-tech field, working for 40 years, and somebody working in a tech field for 10 years, the amount of equity they can save up is equivalent to somebody would save up in their 40 years through a 401k. And so that is something. So I wanted to know, it's good to know what options you have so you can choose it. If you don't know it, then 10 years down the road, you won't beat yourself up that, hey, I wish I knew that there are other opportunities as well. So I'm glad you shared that thing. Moving on to the next one. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because that's a great example that you mentioned about I got 100 every year at Amazon, but you don't get the 100 right away. You get 100 that are vested in about 4 or 5 years, which once again, it means that in the course of 5 years, little by little, you'll get those 100. So it's kind of a weird concept. But don't think that just because you join Amazon, you get $200,000 in stocks in 2 years. It's a promise that you'll get them in 6, 10,
Yes,
whatever number of years, because you get them little by little. Anyway, just wanted to clarify that. But yeah,
little
let's
by
let's
little.
let's
Yes.
let's go on.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So now I want to talk about your advice to international students. Like, so some of the maybe mistakes you did during your master's, your MBA time, and what you would advise them. Also for international students, like how can they maximize their chances to getting into a good tech company? So did going to Duke really help you? But what if you can't get into, maybe you don't have grades, you're an average student and you can't get into those top 20 companies. How do you kind of like from coming from maybe a small school get into these big companies? What is your thought process behind it?
So here let me share advice the before you apply to an MBA, then during an MBA or a master's
Mm,
program.
yeah.
An MBA is extremely expensive. So much
Mm,
that most of us, myself included, are still paying for our studies. And if you ask me, is it worth it? My answer is yes, absolutely, totally worth it. But I always thought if I'm going to pay for this amount of money, I'm going to do it in one of the top schools, the highest I could reach.
mm,
And I actually didn't get into any of my schools the first time that I applied. I got into Duke the second time
okay.
that I applied. And my scores, my GPA, everything about me is really low. So I focused on the other things that I knew were a
Okay.
strength for me, which were networking and meeting people and writing in my essays. I
Mm,
put a lot of effort in that. My scores are really, really
good.
low, and I still got into Duke. The reason I say that is because when I got into Duke, and the same thing is going to happen if you apply for MIT and Stanford and Harvard and all of these amazing schools, is that all of the tech companies are going to come to your school. And there's going to be a lot of positions that are available to your school because the alumni network is very strong in these companies. If you
Yeah.
get into a top 50, top 100 school, you're probably still going to pay a lot of money. But the number of
Mm,
spots available to your school by these companies for the on-campus recruitment, the easy path, it's going to be maybe one or two, maybe five,
mm,
maybe 10. That's it. For the majority, you'll have to put a ton of extra work into getting in those schools. The reason I'm saying all of this is because I feel that sometimes as international students, we are stubborn and say, no, I want to go no matter what to whatever school it is. I'll just go. My advice
yeah.
to all of you who are thinking about that is take a moment to think about it. And if you can, you know, double down your efforts into trying to get into a great school because it will just maximize your
Yeah.
chances of getting into the industry or the place that you want. So that's my advice for the before you apply. But let's say that you already got into a school and it's definitely not a top 20. So what do you do? What are the
Mm,
things that you have to focus on? And this is where I think a lot of trade-off comes into play. You have to think what's more important to you. Like I said before, you have to change
mm,
three things: location, industry, and function. What is more important to you? You're already
mm,
changing location. You're an international student like me. So you can either change industry or you can change the function, right? Maybe you're an expert in marketing or
mm.
project management or finance or whatever it is, but you want to break into tech, focus on that. And that was my mistake. Speaking about your question, that was my mistake. I did not, I was very stubborn and I said, I'm going to change all three, no matter what, I'll do it. And there was a
Mm,
point where I didn't have any interviews left. I didn't have anything in my pipeline. I was sitting in my apartment and be like, I'm not going to get an internship because I didn't apply for anything else that was not product management in tech.
okay.
Eventually, things worked out for me, but there was a moment where I really had nothing else planned. So, my recommendation is if you're
Mm,
already there and you're in the top 50 schools, think that is staying in the US important for you or whatever you're applying in whatever part of the world is important for you. That's number one. Then try to
mhm.
maximize your chances of staying. You can then later on try to make the transition. The second thing is if you have to sacrifice between, say, for example, product management and industry, which one is more important for you? Because maybe you can be a product manager in a
Right.
healthcare company because you have a lot of healthcare experience, or you want to be in the tech industry doing something that you're really good at, like project management or finance or marketing. So that would be my advice for the
Mm,
pre. hold on, wait, double down your efforts getting to a top business school. You're still going to pay a lot of money. And then B, if you're already in a school and it's not in the top 20, do a lot of networking and think about what's more important to you and play your cards well. That's what I would say.
Got it. I would say that is excellent advice. I would pay to hear that words, to be honest, because when I was figuring out how to kind of get ahead, how to kind of navigate my path, I wish 10 years back, I came to US 10 years back to do my undergrad, there was no information out there. I didn't have YouTube videos to watch that. And this information you're giving to people today is so valuable. And I wish, I'm sure a lot of people is going to take good stuff out of that. But all right, excellent. I love that. Thank you so much, Diego. All right, so now getting on to, so I kind of happened to found out about you through LinkedIn, and then I watched a YouTube channel also, and this is how I kind of came to know about you. So I also want to talk about, so you are doing all of these things, you got your H1B. So I'm sure like with Microsoft, you got into, are they doing your green card process? What's happening with that? Also, I would like to know. And a little bit going forward is like, how did you get into doing side businesses like LinkedIn, YouTube? How did you get into that?
Yeah, let me just clarify that it's not a side business. It's posting on LinkedIn and posting on YouTube. There's no there's money that I get from any of these. So all of this I'm doing, and I'll talk about it in a moment. All of this is being done to help others. That's one thing. Companies like Microsoft, again, I'll kind of generalize for the large tech companies, Amazon, Google, FANG companies. They typically get you in a process of the green card, depending on your situation, depending on how far along you are in an H1B. Some companies might even skip the H1B and apply for both together. So it really depends on the companies. But yes, different companies will apply for your green card process. But in terms of YouTube, LinkedIn, all that stuff, like I said, it's not a side business for me. It's something that I've been doing to help others. Because for me, when I try to break into product management, I received a lot of help. I wouldn't be able to do this without the help from my classmates, which, going back to the thing about the MBA, there's such a strong alumni from Duke University, from the Fuqua School of Business, that I receive a lot of help from them. And that's something that I treasure a lot. And it's part of being in a top school. But I received a lot of help. And then I realized, as in the past year, that a lot of people were not getting help. They were being charged $5,000 or $500 to get a course on product management that didn't even help them break into product management. And to me, that was unfair. I couldn't just sit, watch and relax and be like, oh yeah, whatever, go and pay your money there. So I said, why are people charging for this information if it can be free? There's no secret sauce here. I'm not revealing any mysteries. I'm not telling you the secret value that everybody is being protected. No, I'm just telling you, here's how an interview, is at companies like Microsoft or Amazon or Google. And here's how you should practice for your answers. That's it. And I try to do it in a way that hopefully it's clear and it's concise and people can use it. But that's really been it. It's just seeing that the product management community started to be charged for money that shouldn't, for knowledge that shouldn't be charged for. And that's what prompted me to start all this journey on LinkedIn and YouTube.
Wow. That is amazing. That's very refreshing to hear, to be honest, especially in the creator economy right now. Listening to that is amazing. Same like you, I have similar values. My goal was last year, like I went through a lot of immigration challenges in America. As a matter of fact, I didn't get my H1B the 3 times I applied. So I was a STEM. I applied for H1B 3 times. I didn't get it. And I felt like, wow, this is tough. Life is tough. I had to figure out my way in America. And I felt like there are a lot of people out there. They'll go to immigration lawyers, they'll go to different people, and still they will not find answers what they're looking for. So what I started doing is I started sharing my example of how I figured out things, and I wanted to give it for free. So I don't generally give immigration advice, but I told them, hey, this is what I went through, and this is what you can do if you want to stay here too. So And my goal was to give it for free too, because I knew, like, and you develop a passion for it eventually, and that's what happened to me. I started loving what I do, and now I just can't stop doing it anymore, I feel like. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
but
at the
great
same.
to know that. I totally feel that. I got those vibes when I was listening to some of your videos, and I'm definitely gonna link some of your videos here. I'll post a link to your YouTube channel here as well, and would love to kind of, like, share audience here to again help more people. But last question, what I want to ask you is, what is your maybe next plan? Like, what do you see yourself doing in the next 5 years? Because obviously you have the LinkedIn and YouTube, like you mentioned. Now something new I'm learning is that's not a part of your business, so you don't plan to maybe make that as a business, so you're doing more of kind of like giving back to the society. So what is your plan for next 5 years? Do you plan to stay in product management and keep doing that, or do you also see yourself getting into something else?
I love being a product manager. And so I don't know what or where I'll be in 5 years, but if you ask me, I would like to stay in product management and just keep growing as a PM, creating amazing products that eventually are in the market. What's going to happen with YouTube and LinkedIn, I honestly don't know. As long as
Okay.
people still find the information that I provide valuable, I'll probably just keep creating content, because it's also something that I enjoy doing, right? It's not just about,
Mm,
I don't wake up and be like, oh my God, I need to make a new video because people ask me for it. It's like I wake up and I'm like, all right, what are we
yeah,
going to talk about next week? Right. So as long as I keep feeling that passion, I'll just keep doing it. But in the meantime, for me, it's very
nice.
clear I want to continue being a product manager.
Excellent. Wow, good to know that. Well, I think that's all I had to ask you, Diego. I think I got a lot of good information here, and I really appreciate your time. I'm sure a lot of people will love what you had to say today. But I think that's pretty much it. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. And for everybody, thank you so much for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the session.
All right, cool. Last question I want to ask you: how can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name, Diego Granados, and everywhere else, YouTube, Instagram, whatever you want. It's PM Diego Granados. Very easy to find me. So send me a message, whatever you prefer.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. I'm sure definitely a lot of people can use and will use your LinkedIn messages, because I know you have a lot of good stuff to say there. But I think that's it. And we'll log off today. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.